Hey, I'm James.
I'm Laurel, this is Sophia, and this is our mini lock Lily.
And welcome to our vlog called Love and Life with the Cows. So it was our plan to actually start a vlog at the beginning of 2019. It's now mid-April 2019. I was unfortunately involved in a bad burns accident earlier this year, which saw me to about 3 weeks in hospital and extensive skin graft surgery. So it's been quite the process the last few months, but here we are, and
we're getting the year started. Yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff going, but we kind of want to, I guess, catch everyone up to speed and really share our journey over the last 3.5 months, because it's been a crazy one and Facebook posts don't do it justice.
So we wanted to show you a really short clip of the night that my accident actually happened. Just a quick disclosure, if you don't want to see it,
or mute it.
Just mute it or skip about 30 seconds ahead.
Yeah. That was a lot of gas, babe.
Take cover.
3, 2, 1.
Whoa!
Babe! Are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you
Hurt
okay?
my legs. Yeah, hurt my legs.
Baby! Babe! Oh no! Bun bun. Love you.
Wow. So what actually happened is we were at a friend's bonfire, and he had used gasoline on a big burn pile and then taken a few minutes to actually light it after pouring the gasoline on. So what had happened is the fumes had had time to travel and settle on lower points from where the burn pile was, because the burn pile was up on an elevated platform. And Laurel and I were actually standing probably about 12 meters away, so what you think is a really safe distance.
We were the furthest ones from the fire.
Yeah, we were. So when he lit it, basically, obviously the burn pile erupted and the fumes also ignited and basically traveled like a wave of fire along the ground. Yeah,
it was like a flood. The flood just chased James and I, like within a second, chased James and I away. I got away from it. I was 37 weeks pregnant.
Fit little mommy.
Yeah, fit little mama. And James got caught in it, but what was another part of the story was there was like a pocket of fumes that our friend at the top of the hill saw, like a second explosion, and James just so happened to run through the exact moment there was that explosion, and that's probably what did the most damage to your legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I ran into a bush line, and that whole bush line was bent over from that second explosion. So it's just freak accident. Like you couldn't have recreated what happened. No, but yeah, we want to share this story because it's changed us a lot, but it's also, now we're just in a very new season of life and we're running forwards, but we can't go forwards without first filling in where we've been.
Yeah. So yeah, when it happened, I don't know if any Kiwis out there remember the whole stop, drop and roll thing, but that's exactly what I did. My childhood memory came to play and I stopped, dropped and rolled because I thought my entire legs were on fire, including my clothes. So I rolled on the ground and
pulled the skin off,
which actually did a little bit of damage. It pulled some of the skin off that had been badly burnt. And straight away we got a friend to basically put cold water on my legs. Laurel came and sat behind me. I was basically just sitting in Laurel's lap with her resting on her big belly. What was going through your head at that time?
I just didn't realize how bad it was. Yeah, it sounds bad now, but I thought James was being a drama queen when he was rolling on the floor. I was just like, what is going on? Because I wasn't burnt and I didn't see his legs on fire, so it just didn't make any sense. But then I quickly realized, as you'll hear in my voice on that video, that it was bad, that you're really hurting, because yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, so I just remember being on the ground, even though I was in quite a bit of pain, just being so thankful that like it wasn't Laurel that it happened to. Obviously being 37 weeks pregnant, that could have induced all kinds of issues and complications for this little precious one. So yeah, I just remember lying there just so thankful to God for it being me at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all he said was, I'm so glad it wasn't you.
So our friend initially called the paramedics. They came out about 15 minutes later, and straight away the head paramedic was like, no, you're going to have to get airlifted to Waikato Hospital for special treatment. So probably half an hour later, the helicopter came. I was airlifted up to Waikato, which was about a 30-minute flight. Got to see lots of fun fireworks as it was New Year's Eve. And yeah, arrived at Waikato. We've just put little Cupcake to bed. So what were you kind of feeling when the night that I flew away?
Yeah, so I think that was when you weren't being a drama queen anymore. That was when it was real, and I just remember like feeling really scared and overwhelmed, but okay, like I felt peace, but immediately I knew that I needed to go to the guy, our friend who lit the fire, and just tell him that we didn't blame him. Because I think that's like one of the most tempting things to do when trauma happens, is blame someone, isn't it? Like it's a false way to cope and a false way to, I guess, deal with what you're experiencing. And you and I both had to do that, didn't we? Like ourselves, we had to release ourselves from guilt and shame and feeling responsible for even being there, you know? So that was what I did, but so then I just went home and I cried all night long. But at the same time, like I remember telling God that I wasn't going to be mad at him this time, because when bad stuff has happened in the past, like I spent a really long time angry at God for not doing something. And so this time I was like, you know what, I did that once before, it didn't work, so I'm going to just lean into him, and that's what I did. Yeah, it still wasn't fair, but I think, you know, not blaming ourselves, not blaming anyone else, but not blaming God. Like, he's either good or he's not, and you and I have both decided that he's a good God, so that's where we have to stay put. Yeah,
totally. For me, I think initially I wasn't really experiencing a lot of emotion other than what I already shared about just being so thankful that it was me and not Laurel. But feelings of, like, I guess, resentment, or, you know, not wanting to forgive someone because of what happened, they weren't really there initially for me. Like, I did have to deal with that probably a little bit later in my healing process.
You were just drugged up.
Yeah, got a lot of drugs, a lot of morphine.
Yeah, so you got to the hospital. And then what happened?
So yeah, arrived at the hospital. This is obviously like after midnight, I think it was by now, and they basically had to debride my legs in the ER.
Which means they scrub them up.
Yeah, scrub all your skin off. Burns take some time to reveal themselves, so obviously specialists don't really know how bad your burns are. So they basically just debrided, wrapped them all up, and they stayed wrapped up for probably 4 or 5 days, I think.
Yeah, 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so during that time they just said, like, we don't know whether or not he needs skin graft surgery, but we don't think he does. And so we were so hopeful. Like, we were like, okay, that's good. Like, this is bad, but that's good.
Yeah.
And then on day 5...
Yeah, I guess initially, like, the actual ER or the doctors that saw me, he was actually from the burns unit that saw me that night, did actually say, oh, I don't think you're going to need skin grafts. It looks like it's all fairly superficial. We should be good. And obviously that gave me a lot of hope. I was like, oh great, I'm going to be out of here in like 5 days or something.
We can have a baby.
And go home, all good, back to normal. But obviously that wasn't the case.
So on day 5 they unwrapped them, and they still couldn't decide whether or not you needed surgery. And so they actually made us wait 5 more days. And that was where we really got we were scared and nervous, but I remember that was where like prayer time went in. It was like, okay, God, like you've got to just heal his legs. And rallied everyone that I possibly could, and they did, to just pray over James' legs.
Yeah, thank you to everyone that prayed for me.
Yeah, thank you. Like just really believing for that sort of miracle, not a medical miracle. And so those were scary days though, weren't they?
Yeah, and I guess as time went on, being in the hospital day after day after day, was kind of when I had time to think about it all, and some of those emotions started to really hit me. Probably one of the biggest things was, you know, I'm an older dad. I'm 40 this year, and ever since my early 20s, even younger, like, you know, I wanted to get married at 21. It was always a desire to have a family and have kids, and just really excited to be a dad. And I kind of felt like the whole experience was being stripped away from me. Like I was being robbed of it, and that was a real battle in my mind. And that brought up all kind of like started to bring resentment towards our friend who, essentially, in some ways, you say was responsible for the accident, even though it was an accident. So he's not really responsible. But yeah, just dealing with that in my mind, and that was really tough.
Yeah, that was hard. It was just scary. There was so much unknown. Our bunny.
Ignore our bunny in the corner making a racket. She's just destroying her
Cardboard box.
her boxes. It's all good.
She's like a cat.
So, baby, where was your heart at in that time? The first 10 days or so in hospital.
Yeah, so I was in a hotel. My girlfriend came up and stayed with me, and so I had her company, but then she had to go back home. And I remember just like, I was still grieving about what happened, and I was still upset, but I think like I had so much hope. Like I was actually really filled with hope. Like a miracle is gonna happen. James' legs, they were gonna take him off, and his legs were gonna be brand new. And I actually believed that with like all my heart. Like, I was in the shower one night, and I was worshiping and just thanking the Lord for healing his legs. And I come out of the shower, and my clean clothes that I'd laid on the basin, there was this white feather on it, and I was like, man, I've got angels with me. Like the next day we're gonna find out that his legs don't need surgery. So I was pretty good during that time. Yeah.
Very
and then
faith-filled.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
I've seen God do crazy things, so it's like that was what was gonna happen. And so the next day, man, that was the hardest day, wasn't it? That was a bad day.
They put me in a big tub to basically scrub my legs. That they decided that these burns are way more than superficial, and you're gonna need skin grafts. Is basically what they told me. Hearing that news was a massive blow to both of us.
Awful. We cried.
Yeah, I think the whole room.
We were all crying.
There was nurses. There was the original specialist who
My
saw me
dad was
in the
there at
ER.
this point.
Everyone was kind of in tears.
Yeah.
It was very emotional.
And I think the weight of it was like we knew his legs were going to heal one way or the other, like skin graft or no skin graft. But the greatest weight was getting home for the birth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I think that was like everybody felt it.
Everyone knew
surgeon
why.
felt the weight. Like everybody felt this responsibility, whether they cared or not, to get us home.
Yeah. Because at that point, Laura was basically 39 weeks pregnant, and yeah, here we were finding out that I was going to have skin graft surgery, and obviously there's a recovery process from that where I had to stay in hospital for another 5 days plus after surgery.
So that was really, really hard. And then it was once again coming back to God and being like, okay, you are still so good. Like we have even more questions than we have answers for, but this is going to be a medical miracle, you know, like you're still going to heal his legs. So it was at that point that James made me find a midwife in Hamilton. Because for me, like, I could have gone into labor at any point, but I was going to give birth in the hotel if I had to. Like, I was not going to the hospital for a birth just because of personal preference.
Yeah.
But it was really starting to stress you out, and I only found a midwife because it was stressing you out.
Yeah.
And to ease his heart. Like, his heart didn't need me and my stubbornness to cause even greater concern for him. So I found a midwife.
Which we didn't need in
the end. Which we didn't need in the end, which I knew we wouldn't, but you know.
But it was, so there was that side of it. So Laurel got organised, and I think for me the emotion then that started to overwhelm me was like,
I'm going to miss the birth.
I'm actually now going to miss the birth of my first child. Like, again, that whole, this is going to get robbed from me and not being there, because Laurel and I had plans for a home birth. We had the tub all set up at home. We had twinkle lights. We'd done the whole room. Everything was set up. So I wasn't going to be there for Laurel. It was basically, you know, was how I was feeling, and obviously very upset about that.
Yes, there was just so many layers of pain, and it all wasn't there. Like pain and fear, really. It was just this fear of the unknown.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So in the midst of like having so much faith, it was like I could still go into labor any moment. And where are you going to be? So yeah, we just kept praying and believing that, okay, he has to have surgery, so we're going to go home.
Yeah.
So he got surgery.
So fast forward, I guess. Got skin graft surgery. I don't know if you guys know much about skin graft surgery. They basically
peel your leg like a potato.
Yeah, they take skin from certain areas of your body. For me, they took it all from my left thigh, pretty much the entire front of my left thigh.
And placed it on the bottom part of his legs.
Yeah, put it on all of the burn areas of my lower limbs. And they basically glue and staple the skin on, and then the skin takes or it doesn't take. Thankfully, at the 5-day reveal, most of my grafts had taken, probably like 90%.
So what happened that day?
Good enough. We got to go home.
Yeah, so it's like once, I think this is why we describe it all as a roller coaster, because it's like once he had to have surgery, it was like we could breathe again. Even though we were disappointed, we could breathe again because there was another goal in sight. It's like, okay, 5 more days, we can go home. It just gave more definity to what was going on. And so that day they took it off, and all he had to do, which is like a massive step, was walk up the stairs and down to prove that he could be mobile when he got home. And you were in so much pain, weren't you?
Yeah. So the thing, other than obviously like burns hurting your skin or damaging layers of your skin and causing wounds and all that kind of stuff, is the nerve. It actually, you know, you burn deep enough, you actually damage your nerve endings. So every time I stood up, like just swinging even the early days, swinging my feet over the hospital bed was like excruciating.
Yeah, I could tell you were in pain.
So trying to walk on crutches to prove to the physio, it was excruciating. But I did it. I hopped up some stairs, I hopped down some stairs. Basically packed up, got in the car, drove home. We were very happy little campers.
We were happy, and then the continuation of the roller coaster was we got hit with the reality that it was just the beginning. So it was like, yes, we were so grateful to go home. Like I had my tub back blown up, like we were ready to give birth. And it was like James, all he could do was lay on the couch. And so he was in so much pain, as he just described with walking, that he walked for me like he walked down to the lake. And but you were hurting so bad. Like right now he's on 4 times the nerve pain medication that he was given. This is
3.5 months out. I still have to take nerve pain meds for it.
But he's taking 4 times the amount that he was discharged with. And so for a month and a half he stayed on just that amount, just hurting. So that was hard, wasn't it? Like that was probably, you had some dark days when we were home.
Yeah, obviously again, like it's a real battle, like not being able to help, and I'm a bit of a machine around the house. Laura calls me house hubbles. And if there's tasks to do, bang, bang, bang,
get them done. So we had my dad there, and he worked so hard for us.
He was awesome.
But just like it was a mental battle. So now it's like his legs are still, they look like Frankenstein legs. They're hideous and skinny and sad. I mean that with all love. But in his mind, it was just hard. And once again, it was like, okay, now I'm 40, because he got discharged on my 40-week due date. It was like, okay, now when's baby gonna come? And James is in this hurting state. And so for the first week, I actually still didn't want her to come, because I just wanted James to heal a little bit longer. And then when I got to 41 weeks pregnant and the threat of being induced came about, that was when once again it was like this fear of, I'm not going to the hospital. So then we had to get the baby out. And so
I started praying for her to come.
Yeah, so that was when I finally started. I just gave her permission, like, okay, Sophia, like, we want you now. We've always wanted you, but we want you to join us now. And we won't go into the birth. We can save that for another vlog. But that's kind of like, it's still a process. But we're here today, April 23rd, 2019, and life finally feels like it's rolling.
Yeah.
It's about to roll, isn't it? It's not yet rolling.
It's about to roll.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you one thing though, like, how did you, obviously being like, it happened when you're 37 weeks pregnant, like, how did you manage or cope with all the emotions and stress and anxiety knowing that you have a little baby?
Yeah, so Jesus. I, in the midst of it being so hard, like, I remember praying and asking God that he would just translate everything that I was feeling into peace for her, because if you know this or not, like, babies feel what we're feeling. Like, those chemicals of emotions are released into their amniotic fluid, and all throughout pregnancy I really stewarded like my emotional well-being in order to steward her space of growing, for it to be one of peace and comfort and joy. And so I did that actually really well with the Holy Spirit. And then other than when we lost our bunny, those are the only times that I lost it.
And we found the bunny.
Yeah. And so during the hospital stay, like, man, I was in the hotel and there were some intense moments where I was just sobbing, holding my belly and telling Jesus, like, just make everything I'm feeling peace. And now, she's a baby and she cries, but she's the most peaceful little girl, isn't she?
She's very peaceful, yeah.
She's so peaceful. And so it was just about, like, leaning into him, like Jesus modeled peace in the midst of storms. And so just resting and trusting that it was all going to be okay, and not creating worst case scenarios and camping out in those ugly places. And that was the same for you, wasn't it? Like, even though you had the opportunity to go to really dark places, like, once you acknowledge that's where you're going, like, you just have to reroute.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't help.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, for me it was, there was so many frustrations with it all. There was fear, like, about missing something so special, that this was, in the hospital, and then obviously all the frustrations of getting home, about just being pretty much useless. I couldn't do anything. But in all of that, like Laurel said, like, God really was my peace. Like, he's the one that gave me the strength to get through it, and is still giving me the strength to get through it. And just so much hope. Like, we're just so pumped for what's left of this year, and we're just real excited to, like, share it with you guys. We're traveling to America in less than 2 weeks, and then when we get back from America, I'm going to be building a 30-foot or 9-meter long travel trailer.
It's gonna be like a tiny house, camper van, travel trailer hybrid. And we're gonna travel from the top of the North Island to the bottom of the South Island. Our trip starts in October, Lord willing.
It will. I've got basically 3.5 months to build it.
So that's part of why we're doing this vlog. Like, we've got so much going on, but we just want to, we also just want to present, like, real life stuff, like relationship stuff, family health. I'm a nutritionist, nutrition, fitness. James is a mad inventor. so
just sharing on like creativity and business ideas, and
Jesus is a genius, and doing life with him and having access to all the answers of heaven.
We just really, we just want to, like, use our story to encourage you. Well, even though it's not a part of our story, we still want to encourage you guys.
So we don't want to make it all about our fun New Zealand life. We want to just, like, deposit value into where you're at. And I think what we want to just release over you guys from this first video is hope and peace in the midst of really hard stuff. Like, if it's not good, it's not over yet. And so we just want to encourage you that, like, Jesus, he is peace, and his presence makes what is really hard, it makes it so much easier than it should be. And that's what we experienced.
Just want to bless you guys. We love you all, and like I said earlier, we're so thankful for all you guys that do know us and that prayed for us throughout this whole ordeal. We just pray, like, bountiful returns on all your prayers, and
But you're part of our testimony.
Yeah.
Like, you're part
Yeah.
of our victory and
Yeah.
where life is now going and how the Lord's returning to us what was stolen. Like, you get that same blessing.
Yeah.
So we're excited to kind of share our life even more so with people who are around the world. And, yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bun Bun's back before we say goodbye. What's the next vlog going to be about?
So next week, I reckon we're going to vlog about our travel trailer that I'm designing up at the moment. So I'm going to share the design and just talk about what we got planned for it.
Lily has a special quarter.
She even has her own little enclosure built
And
into
tower.
it. Mm.
James loves us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Till then.
Yeah. Thanks for watching all the way through.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.